I think the community policing idea is a great idea.
And make things even better for the neighborhood.
Is it better? Knowing that you have a community policing officer here makes things a lot easier.
Pow! Hit the mother in the head now. That's how I know I'm gonna hurt her, yes. Pow! Hit the mother in the head now. That's how I know I'm gonna hurt her, yes.
Community policing served as the glue to put the pieces of the community together.
Hi, I'm Dave Panett. I work at Riverside Kawasaki. I'm the head technician here. And we're just about to do a safety inspection on this vehicle here, which is a VN 800. First things first, what we check to make sure is that the license plate matches the registration. All the numbers on the license plate, including that the registration is valid. Next, what we'll do is we check the vehicle identification number, which is the VIN number, which I use a flashlight for. On most models, it's pretty hard to find. Next thing we do is I go through and I check tire pressure, which on this one, seems to be all set. Next thing that I'll do is I'll check steering stem bearings, front brake condition, rotor pads, and wheel bearings. I use a flashlight to check the brake pads, which are in good condition. Do a visual inspection of the rotor, which on this bike is in very good condition. Next, what I do is I'll grab the wheel while holding the fork steady and check for wheel bearing condition. And at the same time, just lightly tugging on the front end to make sure that the steering stem bearings are in good condition. It's obviously a safety issue. Going down the road, a bad wheel bearing could cause the brakes to fail. A poor steering stem bearings could cause the rider to lose control because of a notchy steering situation. Also, brake condition, obviously, for stopping reasons, especially on a motorcycle where front brakes are used often. Those are all very important issues, I should say, on a motorcycle, where you see it's only two wheels on the road and everything has to be working in order. It's not like a car where you have four wheels and it's easy to regain control of the vehicle after you've lost control. So we do have to go through it and make sure that everything is good. Fork tubes and fork seals. On this vehicle here, it's a little tough to check the fork tubes, but they have guards on them to protect them from nicking. Fork seals, a leaky fork seal will indicate any type of oil coming out under the fork leg, on the lower part of the fork leg, which these are nice and dry. So these fork seals appear to be in working order. You want to check to make sure that it's mounted properly. All the nuts and bolts are tight, that it's not loose, dragging, hitting the tire, or rubbing the tire due to an oversized tire or what have you. And next would be frame and body. I could lower the front end now, and basically what I want to look for here is any cracks in the frame, stress points, which on a motorcycle like this is at the head tube. I want to make sure that there's no cracks in the welds, that the welds look like they're in good order, that the frame rails on this one has a bolt-on frame rail. I want to make sure that they're tight and not loose or, with strip bolts or miscellaneous hardware in them. Also, the back of this is a subframe. I want to make sure it's tight. I want to make sure that none of the bolts are missing out of it. I want to make sure that it's nice and strong and sturdy. Also on the swing arm area, I'm going to look at the welds to make sure they're not all chipped up, rusted. Any indication of any cracking from an accident, the prior accident. So foot peg mounts, we're going to make sure that they're in good order. Like these are weld-on style. We're going to make sure they're not cracked so the passenger doesn't break the foot peg off or what have you, causing an accident. We're also going to check all the other welds on the frame that I can see visually. A lot of times on a bike that has body work, like a sport bike, what we're going to check is make sure the fairings are mounted properly. No missing hardware, nothing hanging, nothing that's going to drag into the street or fall off into the road or cause an accident or anything like that. And I want to make sure that the side stand mount isn't cracked. That's a common problem on some motorcycles, that the side stand mount will crack. Next we're going to check is the headlight. I'm going to make sure that it aims properly. You can see we have a painted line onto the floor here. I'm going to line it up on the line, and it's a set number of feet from the board. I'm going to start it up. And this one seems to be in proper order. Basically, I'm checking turn signals, make sure the turn signals, front and rear, are both working. Well, I think a typical thing is for them to inspect their brake pads, tire pressures on a regular basis. Also, chain tension on bikes that are chain drive. Motorists seem to neglect the chain tension, which is, unfortunately, is a very likely piece of equipment that gets neglected from them, but it's also very likely to cause an accident. Say the chain would to break or derail and can lock the tire and cause the customer to crash. Unfortunately, they don't see it that way. And tire tread. Tire tread for customers, they try to ride as long as they can on a set of tires and to save some money. But unfortunately, it's a big safety issue, and they should change them regularly. Not only looking at the tread, but also looking at the sidewall. Make sure that it's not dry rotted. If the tires are dry rotted on the sides it's very likely they can have a blowout, so they should change them. I would say to people just to take a look over their machines on a daily basis. Just take a look really quick. I mean, while you're strapping your helmet on, while you're letting your bike warm up, just visualize inspection on brakes, tire condition. I would say on a at least daily to weekly basis, check tire pressure. Make sure there's no nails in the tires. Make sure that the chain's adjusted properly. Make sure, stuff like that. It only takes 2 minutes, and it could save you your life, So I definitely, take a look over what you're riding. Make sure that it's in good working order.
Hi, I'm Sergeant James Rooney with the Somerville Police Department Traffic Bureau. You've just seen a motorcycle safety inspection conducted over at Riverside, Kawasaki at Union Square. And as the term denotes, motorcycle safety inspection, the inspection is really for one reason only. It's not for you to come in once a year and spend $15 at Riverside, Kawasaki. It's to find safety-related problems with your motorcycle, such as defective tires, brakes, wheel bearings, that directly relate to your safety on the bike. If you have these problems with a car, you have a breakdown. If you have problems with your brakes or your wheel bearings or the frame on your motorcycle, you crash. And there's a big difference, and that's why the state mandates those safety inspections once a year. I'm going to go over a few of the things that I, as a police officer, look for when I'm out doing traffic enforcement as it relates to people operating motorcycles. The first thing I'm going to look for is on your rear license plate, do you have the proper registration sticker that denotes that your bike is properly registered, and you have an inspection sticker to show that your bike is currently up to date as far as inspection. Some of the other things I'll look for is if you have no mufflers or loud mufflers. That can be a reason you can get pulled over. Naturally, if you're committing a traffic infraction like speeding or going through a red light, that's going to necessitate a stop. One of the other things we look for is, you can see my helmet, I've got a DOT approved safety helmet, approved by the Department of Transportation. This is a legal helmet. This helmet here is what we refer to as a beanie. It's an illegal helmet. And although we're happy to see that you're wearing a helmet as opposed to no helmet, you should be wearing a DOT approved helmet. And that's one of the other things you can get stopped for. Once you get stopped, as we all know, the documents you're supposed to have with you: valid registration for your motorcycle, you should have your inspection sticker affixed to your license plate, and you also need to have either a motorcycle operator's license or a learner's permit to operate a motorcycle, which you can obtain, which allows you to operate the motorcycle during daytime hours only, and you can't carry any passengers on a learner's permit. Some people feel that they shouldn't have to wear a helmet when they're on a motorcycle, that it's a personal issue because the only one who's going to pay the price is them, which I can kind of understand that point of view myself. But sometimes people, in one way to thwart the law, instead of buying a legal helmet, they'll purchase a helmet like that in the hopes that the police won't pick up on it. And then, for other reasons too, helmets like that don't create as much wind resistance, and when you're on the highway going 70 miles an hour, although I'm sure no one would ever speed, a bigger helmet can be kind of pulled away from your head, whereas a more aerodynamically shaped helmet like that isn't as much of an issue. But the problem is the helmet has one design, one purpose only in life, and that's to protect your head in a crash. And if you crash, at that point in time, I'm sure you'd want the best helmet made on top of your head as opposed to an inexpensive helmet.
Could the hot, sunny weather be to blame for a huge increase in the number of deadly motorcycle crashes in New Hampshire?
When I used to get out of here and I got on my bike, I'd fly because I want to cool off. I'm too hot.
From January 1st to August 15th, 1998, 9 people were killed in motorcycle crashes. During that same period this year, 21 people were killed.
Maybe the weather, not so much rainy weather, good weather, people are using their bikes a longer period of time.
Commissioner Flynn also says other parts of the problem are speed, inattention, and carelessness.
We know that injuries would not have occurred in some instances had they been wearing helmets.
And motorcyclist Tim Landfair says riders are becoming more reckless.
You get more comfortable, you're going to push the limits a little more is what you're trying to do. You have to respect what you're driving. If you don't respect it, I mean, it's a machine. Anything can kill you.
Once a motorcycle is stopped, some of the things I look for is a lot of what they look for in a basic safety inspection. Are the tires in good condition? Do they have proper tread depth? Does the motorcycle have both front and rear brakes? And do they appear to be in good working condition? And I look for these things not because I want to write somebody a ticket for having defective tires or for having improper brakes, but because it's a safety issue that's going to directly impact on them. You have to remember, you ride in a car, but you ride on a motorcycle. And you're a lot more at risk when you're on a motorcycle to being injured in a crash than somebody who's operating a car. And that's why we look for safety-related problems on motorcycles, because we just don't want to see people get hurt.
Technique is all there. Nice job.
Yoo-hoo, kid!
Alyssa Zamchek is turning a dream into reality, learning how to ride a motorcycle.
I grew up on dirt bikes and all my friends ride, and I'm sick of riding on the back, so I'm gonna ride my own.
How'd you like it?
I love it.
This set of cones, you can look over here and roll all the way through on the throttle.
They don't throw you into anything. As you can see, they explain every single step of the way before we do it, while we do it, after we do it. They talk to each one of us, tell us what we're doing wrong, what we need to do better. I mean, it's a great course.
With this course, not only do you learn how to operate a motorcycle safely, but once you've done it, you get 10% off your insurance and you don't have to take the registry road test. The course is part of the Massachusetts Rider Education Program. Since its inception in 1990, motorbike deaths have declined by 40%, while the number of motorbikes on the road is up by 26%.
I'm Sergeant Joe McCain with the Somerville Police Department. Along with being a sergeant of the police department, I'm a licensed operator of motorcycles for many years, since I was 16 years old. I've been riding motorcycles on and off the road for 25 years. Sergeant Rooney asked me to make a list of things that I do out in the street while I ride, knowing that I've been an experienced rider. The first thing that I'd like to share with everybody is you have to scan the roadway in front of you, looking for trouble spots, whether they're potholes in the road, sand or salt in the street that's left over, that you always want to look for a way out. By that I mean that if you are riding in traffic and there are cars on both sides of you and in front of you, you don't want to be worried so much about how you're going to brake to get out of a situation, how you're going to use your brakes to get out of a situation. You want to be able to maneuver the motorcycle out of the way in case you don't have enough time to stop. Be that you go to the left of a car that stops in front of you, or you go to the right of a car that stops in front of you. Any way to maneuver out of the way from striking another vehicle. The third thing would be to make sure that people see you. If people don't see you, they're going to turn into you. You want to stay in their mirrors. You don't want to stay in motor vehicles' blind spots, whether they're trucks or cars. Make sure that you maneuver yourself to a position where you make the driver of the motor vehicle aware that you're there, whether it's on their right side or their left side. You want to evaluate people in traffic. You want to look for different types of drivers as you're driving. You want to look for somebody who may be driving erratically, somebody who may be driving very slow, someone who might be lost and not sure which direction they want to go in. You want to be looking for people who are driving too fast. Now, these things can apply to not only in front of you. As a motorcycle rider, you have to be in your mirrors all the time. You should be looking in both your mirrors, scanning your mirrors for what's behind you all the time, because what's behind you is just as dangerous as what's in front of you. Somebody that's driving erratically in traffic coming up from behind you can put you in a bad situation very quickly. The last tip, I think, is be wary of people's hand signals and or blinkers, in that they may not always correctly display in which direction they're going. They may put their right blinker on, not thinking, and suddenly turn left. So if somebody puts their right blinker on, you think they're going right, you start to pass them on the left, and they all of a sudden swing in front of you. It's something to be, that's also another thing to be aware of.
It's freedom. It's just getting out on a bike, open air, your hair blowing.
Sound, vibration. It's a big attraction for me.
The biggest thing is to be very alert as to what's happening around you, the sounds, and everything that's happening in the environment. You want to be aware of that since it could impact you very easily. Riding in the rain is a different situation. You have to leave much more distance between you and the vehicles in front of you. You have to be more alert when turning and maneuvering the motorcycle, because you're not getting as good of traction as you can imagine. In a car, it's difficult in the rain to keep good traction. So you can imagine that on two wheels, it's even more of a situation that you have to watch what you're doing. In the rain, also when it first begins to rain, a big issue for motorcycles is any kind of any oil that's on the surface of the roadway. When it initially starts to rain, that oil is bubbled up and comes right to the surface prior to it washing away from the rain. So that first half hour of a fresh rain will bring all the oil to the surface and make the road surface very slick, which is another dangerous situation for motorcycles. And I can speak as a young kid who had a street motorcycle at 16 years old, who is very fortunate that I didn't get hurt. It's very easy to overdrive a motorcycle. They're very fast, they're very quick, and you can get yourself into a bad situation in a split second with a very quick motorcycle by overdriving it, not knowing what you're doing, And I think one of the other most important things is for a young operator of a motor vehicle to understand that everybody that's standing there, you think that all your young friends want to see you show off for the young ladies, and it's caused many a young motorcycle rider to lose his life by popping wheelies and doing a burnout and all those things that he thinks is impressive for everybody. In fact, it isn't, and you're only putting your own life in jeopardy.
It's awesome. It's the greatest, it's freedom.